Well, hey, happy Wednesday. What's going on? I'm Jay. This is ATI. Now we are here. It's a Wednesday. It's noon Central Time. It's been DOT compliance for months, maybe years. But we're now live carrier advice because DOT compliance isn't all that we talk about. It's a lot of what we talk about, but this is a place to get carrier advice, and it's live with Brian Riker, your DOT guy. So what I want you to do, go ahead and jump in the live chat. What's up, Two Bears? Yes, this thing is on, and I'm going to add Brian. We're not going to waste any time. Let's see. Hey, Brian, can you see me and hear me okay?
Yes, I can, my friend.
All right. Awesome. Okay, so we're live. We have carrier advice, and we have carrier questions and carrier advice, and I've got news stories as well, so we can,
So
tune in.
I'm somewhere between Walter Cronkite, Dear Abby, and Dr. Ruth.
You're with a wrench. All of that with a wrench behind the wheel. If Dear Abby was behind the wheel of a truck, that would be Brian Riker.
Well, if I was a little funnier, I could be Jay Leno, and then we'd really fit right in.
Oh, well, but that's my job. So see, you can't have my job because I have to do something here. I must play some kind of certain role. Let's go ahead and jump into some of the news. Okay, so like I said, this is live carrier advice. Welcome to it. And we want, this is part of it here. Here's the thing is, if you miss the show live, you can put it in the YouTube comments below. You can email Brian. Your participation is not, is not required. We just want to say that. But here's the thing is, and as we move into the news, you're going to see this. The point of live carrier advice is to help provide actual advice. And because there's a lot of questions out there, there's confusion, there's questions. Let's jump right into that. Let's take a look at what does that look like, Jay? All right, for example, there's a lot of Facebook groups, right? This is where a lot of people get their knowledge. There seems to be two main sources of random knowledge in trucking and transport. You've got your Facebook groups and you got your YouTube videos. And yes, while this is a YouTube video, I don't think it's like most other YouTube videos in that we are rarely, how about that? We are rarely going to talk about money that you can make. There's plenty of places to find out about money you want to make. For example, here's a car hauler. He says he's got 2 years experience. He left where he was working. He's looking for a car hauler job that pays around 120 grand. Brian, is that about right, or where are we on this?
It's going to depend upon what those 2 years of experience are. Right now, at the right car haul carrier, sure. I know some guys on the East Coast that are paying 120 or better. You're going to run out over the road for a while, and you better be able to load a 9 or 10 car hauler, not a 3-car wedge. Nothing against the wedges, but when you want to get into that type of money, it isn't just cookie cutter loads. That's where your 2 years of experience comes in. So you know how to make height, you know how to make weight, and you know how to make length with that load. And then 120 is very reasonable. 5 years ago, when I still had my trucks on the road, that was a average pay for a car hauler in my group. So yeah, that's doable, provided that 2 years of experience, you have a spotless driving record, you actually have experience with Stinger steer equipment, and you're willing to pull your own cars and hustle, not terminal to terminal, port to port type work. That's a little harder to make at 120 a year, unless you go and pay your dues and work a couple of years in a new car haul shop or a union shop.
Do you think that, okay, so you're this guy, 2 years experience, you're looking to make 120. Should you go be a company driver or be an owner operator? Which way are you going to reap better benefits?
Most of the time, you reap better benefits being the company driver. And I know that goes against what a lot of people will say, what a lot of people think. But with owning the truck, there is a chance to make a really good income, a really good living, but there's also a lot of risk. Right now, we have some uncertainty with $5, $6 a gallon fuel. I'm sitting out in Walcott, Iowa right now, and diesel is $5.39 a gallon at the big chain. Um, when you look at a survey of the owner operator independent driver associations their average member is late 40s to early 50s, white male owner operator. They've had their own authority. They've been in trucking for almost 30 years, and they've had their own authority or owner operator for almost 20. And their median take home pay is only $65,000. And now that's general freight, flatbed, that's not car haul. But when you look at the expenses to run one of these car haulers, you may gross 300, 400,000, but you're going to have a real hard time netting 120 as an owner operator until you have refined your skill, your service area, your customers. But you'll have no problem working for a mid-sized fleet that already has perfected all that and grossing 120. So being an owner operator is not for the faint of heart, and it's not all that it's cracked up to be. Sometimes you have to look at your situation, and are you a excellent truck driver and an excellent businessman plus a pretty good car hauler, or are you just, and there's no shame in this, just a pretty good car hauler and an excellent driver but not the greatest businessman? Then you're going to have a hard time as an owner operator.
See, that's it. I've just I have this mental block where I'm almost positive that there's a portion of folks that are convinced they want to be owner operators that might be better off being a company driver, because being a business owner, oh my God, there is so much to it.
Oh, sure. And I've been on both sides. I've owned a couple of different businesses in transportation. I have been employee driver. I've been employee management. I've sit on the board of directors of a company. I've seen this from all the different sides. And if you want to be the owner operator just because you don't want to answer to somebody, you want to do it your own way, well, we all answer to somebody, and that somebody is going to be your customers. If you want to be the owner operator because you're good with your money, you know how to put money away, save for a rainy day, and you want to grow and build something, not just buy yourself a job, then awesome, you're the right person for that. But if you're just looking to make a few extra dollars, it looks really good when you see the truck grosses $300,000 for the year or $400,000 for the year. But when you start thinking about what you spend, and the exercise I tell current company drivers that are thinking about doing the owner operator switch, start running your company truck like you own it. And that means take a notebook, write down every expense imaginable as you're doing it: your fuel, the tolls you just came through on the toll plaza, when you had to pay for parking for that night, when you go in for an oil change, get a rough idea what the price is going to be, the repairs. Then go price some insurance, price the truck payment, the cost of the capital to finance all of this, and decide if at the end of the day you think that you can beat what you're making as an employee driver. And don't forget what your benefits are worth, what your workers' compensation insurance is worth, because as an owner operator, if you get hurt, that all comes out of your pocket. There is nobody to pay for your injury when you fall off the truck and break your arm and you're out of work for 6 weeks, or break your back and you're out of work forever. Sorry, that's on you. And I'm not saying that one is better or more or less than the other, but I am saying that you need to fully understand what you're getting into before you pull that trigger and enter the business owner world.
I mean, just on the equipment alone, I pulled up this one. Hotshot versus semi. This is a question gets asked all the time, and there's lots of information about it. But I found this. This guy says this: I didn't want the added expense of a vehicle I could only use commercially. I use my truck to haul my RV to the dunes or pick up supplies at Lowe's. if we go somewhere we want to check out, we can go sightsee, not so simple in a semi. So this guy right here, we've talked about this. He's using his CMV for personal use. Brian, how do you feel about that?
Well, there's nothing illegal about that, but it is risky. We're all allowed. You could take your Class 8 semi tractor and hook up your fifth wheel trailer and tow it away on vacation. It doesn't make economical sense to do that. But here's the problem: when you're using that commercial vehicle personally, you need to make darn sure with your insurance company that your wife or girlfriend and kids are covered, that non business use is covered when it's insured on a commercial insurance policy. And remember, certain things are still DOT regulated, even though you're using it personally, because it is a commercial vehicle primarily. So when you stop and put fuel in that truck, even using it under personal conveyance, which is what you would be doing when you're going to the Lowe's or taking your camper out to the dunes for the weekend, you need to log that as on duty time. You need to pull into the scales, even when it's your personal vehicle. People are going to tell me I'm wrong, but I'm not. It is just the way it is. And when you read the guidance, it'll even clearly tell you that. So just because you want to call it your personal pickup truck on the weekend doesn't mean it really is. It doesn't mean it's unlawful, but there's certain parameters that must be met. And the biggest one is insurance, because if your insurance company doesn't know that you're permitting yourself to use that vehicle personally, I have seen them deny claims and leave you not just out for the physical damage to your vehicle, but you're paying for the damage to the other vehicle because they denied the entire claim. And believe me, it happens more often than you would think.
Speaking of, because when we were talking about maintenance a few minutes ago, um, Brian, I'm going to ask you, we're live. Are you available Tuesday night for this reaction video idea?
I'm not positive yet, Jay,
Okay.
and I did see your email.
I know, yeah.
I'm not ignoring you. I'm not quite sure what next week
Hi,
is going to
he's
look like
ignoring
yet.
me. Yeah, okay. Well, I'll tell you, I really hope you can join us, even if it's brief. But I know we all have crazy schedules. Everybody's crazy busy. I mean, nobody has it easy. I don't think there's a single person. Right? Everybody is just busy like crazy, and even just setting meetings can be difficult. So, I think what we're gonna do is, because I had a schedule change. I had a show that I was going to do Tuesday night and it has pushed. And I want to get to this video and I don't want to wait till like July or something. So we're going to do the reaction Tuesday night with whoever can be there. So I hope you can join us. And what
Sure.
this is okay. What this reaction video is, reaction video, where people sit around and watch the Super Bowl or whatever. What this is we're gonna go into, this guy made a video and I shared it with you. Saw it, Ty saw it. I sent it to Sue, I sent it to Ron and Candy. And it's a good video, but as good as it is, it still misses some key moments that, if you are, and as Ty likes to say, stop before you go drop 200K and now you're, waiting on a load board or whatever it is you're doing. We just need to talk about a few more things, because I think this guy really missed it, especially on maintenance. I looked at his
Sure.
maintenance number. I'm like, that's not even close to right.
And a lot of times, and the video you're talking about specifically was a hot shot. A lot of times
Oh
the
man,
maintenance gets overlooked because,
because you're
well,
destroying your truck one bolt at a
yes,
time. I mean,
you wear it out quicker. But really, as they say, the devil is in the details.
yeah,
It's just
man.
like I get phone calls and they ask me, what truck do you recommend? And I can't give you a straight up answer and say, buy a Pete 389 with a 9-car Cottrell. I would love to tell you that because that's what we sell, but it's going to depend on exactly what you're doing. It's going to depend on whether you got a better Peterbilt dealer or a better Western Star or a better Freightliner service network in the area you run. The same thing with the Ram versus Ford question on the little trucks is, where do you run and how good's the dealer in your area? And that comes down to being more important even than your personal preference of, I have to have that red oval or that blue oval. Does it make financial sense for me to buy this specific piece of equipment when the nearest dealer that can service it is 100 miles away from my home base and I run local?
You
Things like
know,
that.
you just
It's
really
all the
think, and
details.
if you find this show irritating, like, man, would you guys just get to the point? Wait till you're an owner operator, dealing with all the forms and all the specificity of all the different things. I mean, you've got marketing and sales and operations. You're going to get bombarded with emails and text messages and problems. It is nonstop madness to
Oh,
own a
and
trucking business.
wait until the broker's calling every 20 minutes to find out
Oh,
where their load
where's my
is,
load? And then the
or
customer calls you, my car is on your truck, right?
yes, and you missed one piece of paper in your carrier packet, so you didn't get the load you were counting
And now you've
on.
got lights in your window. Hey, we need you to pull over. It's insane.
Yes, and I just went through this with a gentleman who's been a company driver for years, and he had been a lease operator for the last several years, and he saved his money and he went and he bought a brand new truck. And he's going to be all right because we've worked on this for a year to make the transition from being a leased operator to a full owner operator with his own authority. And the detail that went into that transition from someone that's already been in the business for 10 or 20 years was incredible. So to just go ahead and throw caution to the wind and buy a truck and start hauling, you're setting yourself up for failure from the start.
That's why we do this show. You'll notice we don't like now take the moment to go, that's right, for only $29.95 you can contact, we're not doing that.
No,
We're just talking. Now, Brian does run a business, Fleet Compliance Solutions, but we're not here to promote his business as much as we are to, let's sit down for a moment, let's just talk, let's have a cup of coffee. And check this out, Hillbilly Tarzan in the live chat, first time caller, long time listener, emailed a question, I think, to onair at yourdotguy.com, which is Brian's email. But since Brian is in a truck right now, he's not checking his email. You can also email it to me if you want us to talk about it live. We can. Or Brian will get back to you. And boy, oh boy, get ready to read.
if you were a little more tech savvy, Jay, I
Oh
gave you the
no, what?
password to that email box when I set it up.
Dude, I'm an
You
owner
could open it.
operator. I got problems coming out of my eyeballs. I'm a YouTube channel owner operator. No, really, I mean my hard drive is consistently almost full. No, I'm completely overwhelmed. We're not even going to talk about the Auto Transport 22. Don't get me started. Or the top 50. That's one of the things I want to say. Top 50 largest car hauling businesses in the U.S. How many of the top 50, just off the top of your head without having the list in front of you, do you think are hiring company drivers? Go.
50 of them.
50 of them. That's right. 50 out of 50. That's why this is why I don't understand. I don't understand. If 50 out of 50 of the largest car hauling businesses in the United States are hiring drivers, why does everybody want to start a business? The American dream.
Because
It's the American
it's
dream.
the
The
it's
American
the
dream.
American dream. And to be a successful truck driver, you have to be a pretty independent personality type, anyhow, because we're out here alone. I've been on the road 30 years, more or less, and we spend a lot of time alone. We rely on nobody but ourselves most of the time. So it's in our nature to want to cut the middlemen out and do the work ourselves. Where what we fail to realize, and I did this too when I started my first company, was the benefit of having that back office to do everything for us. Now you're doing it yourself or you're paying someone to do it. The benefit of the relationships that the bigger companies can make to open up doors that the independent one truck owner operator just cannot open. So there are benefits to that, but there's detractors too. I found a nice little niche that worked for us, and it was perfect because none of the big companies wanted to do what I did, but not everybody finds that. And I'm not trying to take anybody's dream away. I mean, I am pro independent. I am a freelancer. Almost everything I do is completely independent, and I sink and swim on my own merit, as do you, Jay. I just want to help people understand what they're getting into to prevent them from making the same mistakes or learning the same hard lessons that I learned over these last 30 years.
We got the, thank you, Hillbilly. I got his email. All right, here we go. The question is, just make sure. Okay, check. Okay, good. I've been thinking about buying a high mount car hauler and hauling used cars. I have limited experience hauling, but I have done it. Is it worth switching from general freight to car hauling? I also have plans to start a car lot. I'm in North Carolina. Any suggestions on trailers, etc.?
Well, if you're going to buy a high mount trailer and you have some hauling experience and you've been hauling general freight, the good news is trailers themselves are not expensive to own. And if you already have your own operating authority from hauling general freight, adding automobiles to it is not that complicated, but you can expect your insurance to increase significantly. So the good news is when the auto market's down, you can park that car hauler and do power only or back under your dry van or your reefer trailer or whatever it is you had hauled before and still make a living with your tractor. Because I'm going to presume, by the way you worded your question, that you currently are a truck driver and have hauled freight, etc. If not, I may be wrong, but a high mount is less of an investment than buying a full-on Stinger, and it's a better investment than buying a pickup truck and a wedge if you're only going to part-time haul or you're going to support your car lot. If, and this is a big if you already have the road tractor that you were using to pull other freight with. Now, if you got to go out and buy everything and your end goal is to open a used car lot, you may not even want to buy the truck. It's cheaper to have the cars hauled to you out of the auction and you can concentrate on just selling the cars. But if you do insist on going to the auction, bidding on them yourself and hauling them home yourself, if you're just supporting your own car lot, then maybe a Hotshot is the right rig for you. And that's going to depend on what type of vehicles you want to sell and how far you're going to travel to the auctions to get them, et cetera, et cetera. But you will notice very few dealers have their own transport division because generally it's more cost effective. It's a better use of their time to contract the transportation out than it is to go do it, because you can be prepping cars and selling cars and making contacts in your office for 8 hours and sell a couple $1,000s worth of vehicles, gross profit, or you can spend 8 hours hauling cars and then still have to do all that work on the back end to be able to sell them. So you have to ask yourself what your time is worth if you want to haul your own cars for the car lot.
Right. Core competency. Are you a dealer? Are you a transporter? You can do both, but like Brian just said, I put Ty's phone number in the live chat as well. Ty at Cars on the Move. He's our ATI carrier coach, and he talks to people. Just said hit 3 calls this morning. That's so awesome. And I had an email. I don't know if you've already talked to this person, Ty, but somebody emailed from the show last night with questions. Oh, Hillbilly adds, I already am insured for high value cargo, so insurance is not the issue. And yes, I already have the semi too, actually, and also would
Okay.
be the only guy in my area doing used cars. What I like is that it shows he's really thinking about the business, the customers, the service he's providing. That sounds
All right.
pretty good.
And if you're already doing high value stuff and you already have the semi, then a high mount is the way to go. And there's a couple of different trailers, but really the high mount trailer that I'm going to recommend, and it's not because I'm affiliated with a Cottrell dealer, but the Cottrell high mount just has so many more functions and features than some of the other trailers that are out there. Now, that said, my fleet, the high mounts were all Miller Industries trailers, and Miller doesn't even make a trailer anymore, and they were acceptable. But I wish I had some of the features that were on my buddy's Cottrell trailers. Stay away from the little trailers that are just made to be pulled with a big semi. So stay away from like trying to pull a Mini 6 or a Kaufman, something like that with your truck. Even some of the Wally Mo's, they have some good features, but some of the stuff is a little questionable. But what you really have to figure out is how many cars you want to pull. Are you allowed overhang in the areas you're going to run? Because remember, a high mount does not get granted the same rights as a Stinger steer auto transporter for overhang off of the trailer. And are you going to be doing pickup trucks down there in the Carolinas? You're going to be doing sedans and cars. So that may determine whether you want to get just a simple 5307 7-car trailer, or if you want to get a 5309 that has all sorts of independent floating decks so you can really squeeze the load in there and build a big load on the trailer. You got to figure out what type of vehicles you want to transport before you can decide which is the right trailer.
Chris has got a great follow-up. Hey, when you say high mount, do you mean wedge or 4 or 5 car with a second deck? Please elaborate.
It's really simple, Chris, and thank you for asking, because some people, the terminology is a little unique in the auto transport world. A high mount trailer simply means it does not have a Stinger steer hookup fifth wheel. It means the fifth wheel is up on the top of the frame rail. And so when you're dealing with a traditional class 7 or 8 semi truck, that is a regular tractor that you would see hooked up to the Walmart van trailer or the Schneider van trailer pulling a car trailer. It could be a 3-car wedge. They would meet technically the definition of a high mount because the fifth wheel is up above the drive axles. The other hitch in the auto transport world is the Stinger, and they call it Stinger steer. And I don't know where the steer part comes from, but that means simply that the fifth wheel, it has to be a fifth wheel hitch, and it's mounted behind and below the center line of the axle. So that's the one where the fifth wheel is way down on the ground on the back of the truck, like your 9 and 10 car haulers. That's a Stinger. High mount just means the fifth wheel is up above your drive axle, which could be on a Hotshot cabin chassis, regular road tractor, not to be confused with high rail, which is a type of trailer that has the really tall rails on it, and they fit 10, 11, 12 cars on them because they have a whole bunch of independent decks. Hopefully that didn't muddy it up even more.
Oh, it was fantastic. Shoot, I started taking notes. Good job. Thank you, Brian. Let's do this. We're in for a long show. We're almost at the 30-minute mark. So let's do this. Let's try and get back to some news articles. And I see, David, I haven't forgot about you because I've got a thing here that I think is going to tie into the DOT value. This guy says, I see many people on here saying I made 15 grand in 3 to 5 loads in a week. I'm shaking my head. That's the stuff that really bothers me. The really high numbers that people love to hear, and then I don't want to see companies go out of business. I don't want to see that. And this is interesting too. This one, I don't know what this is. I'm just going to read it. Car hauling company for sale, 215K, Pennsylvania. In the price you get, car hauling company, active full authority, no outstanding balances to the new owner, low insurance cost, excellent credit, which, okay, weekly gross 5 to 6K and up, big potential to grow in transportation industry, approved for work with major national shippers, excellent DOT record, excellent customers record, 100% positive reviews, and the company is fully established, just pay in full and start making money. The equipment, 2019 Ford F350, 77,000 miles, excellent condition, air ride, driver's seat, 40 inches by 80 inches bed. fifth wheel connection, extra 60 gallons fuel tank. And the trailer is a 2021 Kaufman 3-car wedge, tandem axle, 102-inch wide, excellent condition, extra toolbox, 72-inch long, 10-foot aluminum rims. So, what, Brian?
Well, it's going to depend upon how the company is legally structured, whether this is worthwhile or not. It's not unusual to buy a trucking company. In fact, on my podcast, I have a whole episode with a business broker that talks about buying or selling your existing trucking company. It's one of the things he specializes in. So we got an asking price of $215,000 there. $5,000 to $6,000 a week gross. That sounds reasonable for a hotshot wedge in the Norristown, Pennsylvania area. So he hasn't exaggerated his gross income. I've run that area. That is probably a reasonable gross to make. So when you're pricing a business for sale, well, first let's get down to whether this actually can happen or not. If the business is structured as a full-on corporation that is transferable, then the business credit, the motor carrier authority, all of that can transfer because it's just a stock sale and there's no real change of ownership in the eyes of the US DOT. If it is not structured where it can be a stock sale, then the business credit means nothing. The low price of insurance means nothing because you're going to have to requalify for your insurance policy. You're going to have to apply for a new US DOT number. So the years established being set up to work with a broker or major national shipper means nothing because you're going to be a brand new company that bought a name and a used truck. So the way this is worded, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that this owner probably has it structured properly because there's a lot of good in this ad. Now we look at the price, $215,000. Well, that 2019 truck, if you had to replace it today, if presuming you could get one, that truck and trailer are probably upwards of $120,000 to $130,000 to replace it today with how screwed up the market is. And then we look at $5,000 to $6,000 a week gross. So what is 6,000 times 50? So we're at 60 and 60s, 120, 240, 300,000 a year gross. So he's not even
Oh, Brian, check. You got your the mic muted. That thing happened with your phone thing. As Brian fixes his mute, yeah, what do you guys think? Like in the live chat, what do you, have you seen this? Have you seen this article or posting? Yeah. So yeah, the question is, have you seen this article posted? This posting on Facebook. What were your thoughts? Is it worth
all
it?
right.
What questions do you have? And Ty, by the way, I'm going to hand it back to Brian, but Ty, to answer your question, it says approved for work with major national shippers. It does not say we have a list of clients that love us. I don't see that.
Correct. And
Which
that
is
right
really
there is the
what you're
hardest.
selling. Yeah, right?
Yeah, you're selling a lot of goodwill with this and a used truck. Now the price isn't really out of line because most often a small business is sold at a multiple of the gross, normally 1 to 3x the gross. So $6,000 a week, $300,000 a year gross. He's asking 215, and you're getting about $120,000 worth of physical assets. That's actually not too far out of line in that price. Now, that said, if the DOT and motor carrier and the goodwill can't transfer over because of the way the company is structured, then the company is only worth the physical asset price of the truck and trailer on what it could sell for today on the open market.
Okay, see, this is where I've got the biggest question because in the world as I've seen it, most things don't have paperwork in triplicate to allow the transferability that we would need. But you say it's possible. We don't know, right?
It it is possible.
Is it
I don't
likely?
know. Um,
And again,
I'm running into it being less likely
I'm
more
right.
now than before.
I'm going
When we
less
used
likely. Yeah,
when we used to have to
but I
have
don't know.
operating rights granted to us by the Interstate Commerce Commission, trucking companies had to have an attorney make that application for them. And so they filled out all the I's and dotted the T's because your operating rights sometimes could be a 6 or 7 figure asset of the company. Today, with how easy it is to get a DOT number and motor carrier authority, $300 and a 21-day waiting period, anyone can do it, and it's not a high value commodity. Now, having a good clean track record, good corporate insurance rates because you have good track record with the company. But even that, you can't guarantee the low insurance is going to transfer over to the new owner if the new owner doesn't have
That's
the driving
that's what I
history
was thinking.
to.
I don't even know how the insurance is part of the deal.
Well, the insurance is part of the deal because if you bought, let's say we weren't talking about a one truck company, but we were talking about 100 truck company.
Okay, all
The
right.
insurance price isn't going to change because it's a new CEO until the new CEO starts making major operational changes that then affect that safety score. So that's where that comes in. But I wouldn't put a whole lot of weight on the insurance. The most valuable part of this is truck and trailer that's set up and ready to go because they're hard to get right now.
Okay.
And if the DOT safety record is as clean as it says, you're going to have a little better price on insurance, and you're not going to have brokers telling you can't have work because you're a brand new carrier with no proven track record. It's an end run around being the new guy. Is it worth the 100,000 above what I think the truck and trailer is worth? Probably not, unless there's some transferable contracts in there, which it does not say it has.
So let's say you're like, let's say you right now you're like, man, I'm either going to buy this or I'm going to set this up myself. First of all, what do you think of the setup? How we doing?
If that's the business you want to be in, if that's the way you want to do it, that's not an awful setup. Now, I don't know if it's set up to be CDL or not. I can't tell from the picture on the screen if he has IFTA decals. That's a dead giveaway that it's a CDL rig because it's
Mm-hmm.
over 26 then.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a typical Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, New York City rig. That
Mm-hmm.
is a very typical rig in my neck of the woods. And it can be a profitable rig because in that area, your length of haul is 40, 50 miles running in and out of Bordentown and Manheim, PA, and stuff like that. So that rig could probably be profitable out there. And whether it's worth it or not, I can't say because you got to decide whether you want to be the hot shot or a 7 car high mount or a 9 car stinger. That's your business model.
Let's say, how about this? Let's say you buy this. But the problem is you realize you're approved to work for major national shippers, but gosh, can we take it further? Can we do some sales? I'm a real go-getter. What should I try to do to develop a running lane, and what kind of clients should I try to go after? What can I reasonably get? What could I get? What could I do?
Well, if the name is established and it doesn't have any black marks against it, then you could use that name and they might not realize it's a brand new owner to open doors for you. Because a lot of times, what holds you back from establishing your own lanes is just length of time in business that nobody wants to take a chance on the new guy and pay him full market rate. We'll take a chance
Right.
on the new guy if we're getting a discounted rate because that's risk versus reward. So this is a way to get around being the FNG by buying someone else's blood, sweat, and tears and experience.
All right. So go talk to dealers, go talk to auctions, call brokers back, right?
Right.
Call
Right.
everybody you called for.
And you can do all of that without buying a company. It just takes time.
Ah,
So
now see, that's the interesting, and that's what brings us back to company driver versus owner operator because we're not all sales guys. I think of this when I was younger, when I was a little boy or whatever. I thought about I had that idea. You know what? I'm gonna try to sell those like newspapers. It was like a grit. It was grit newspaper, and I thought, I'm gonna become a sales guy for grit newspaper. I'm gonna go through the neighborhood and sell grit newspaper, and I'm gonna make money, and I'm gonna be my own businessman. And then I went negative. I thought, who wants to buy grit?
But you
And
you
then I
hit you
didn't do
hit
it. I
on
talked myself out of it.
you hit on a very important part. A lot of us have the technical proficiency and the skill to be the driver, but not all of us can take that constant rejection of the no when you try to build your business, the door slammed in your face. Not all of us can see the opportunity when we're riding down the road and say, hey, that's a potential customer. That's a potential customer. Let me reach out to them. Sometimes when you're trying to drive the truck, you have just barely enough time and energy to drive the truck, let alone run the business, which is why we have small carriers contracting out their back office stuff. And when you're done paying all those expenses, you probably didn't make more than you would have as a company driver when you factor in the tax liability, the cost of benefits or whatever you may need. And the one thing we never factor in is risk. We always presume that only rainbows and unicorns, only the good things are going to happen to us. It's the same reason I don't believe in debt and I don't finance things, because look at what happened as this whole stock market and fuel price and everything went nuts. If I was leveraged up to my eyeballs using OPM, other people's money, I'd be in trouble. But I don't owe a dime to anybody. I can ride this out for years and it's going to suck, but it's not going to hurt me. And so that's the thing we have to think about, is the risk. Could I be further ahead? Could I own a bunch of rental houses if I was willing to take that risk? Sure. But what happens when COVID hits and they put a moratorium on paying rent and your tenants don't pay you? The same concepts apply to any business. So just think about your appetite for risk when you're starting a business.
So before I move on, I just want to make sure I touch on. So David's question about an hour ago was, is there value in selling a DOT number?
Yes, provided that it's structured properly so you can legally sell it and they don't need to reapply. And like most likely when you sell it, you're going to end up getting a new DOT number anyhow, but the MC number is what is transferable. Unless you are set up as a true stock-based corporation, then there is no ownership change in the eyes of the DOT, just who owns the stock certificate changed. But there is value in that. People will buy an active motor carrier that has a good insurance history, that hasn't been suspended, a good safer score at CSA score, because that lets them bypass the 6 month to 1 year waiting period with a lot of the major brokers and shippers to be able to do work with them. So yes, is it $100,000 value? Probably not. A couple of DOT number transactions I've brokered, they're $15,000, $20,000 deals at best.
Let's see here. Okay, here, this is a good one. This is posted in, I don't know which group. By the way, I won't even get into the comments on I'm selling my business because you can imagine how that went. Um, Need a 2022 Silverado moved from Austell, Georgia to Ocala, Florida ASAP. All right, so right there, when you say ASAP, double the price. Okay, but
Mm-hmm.
I need it picked up today, so that's double ASAP, or possibly tomorrow, and you can deliver Tuesday. Now, this was on May 28th, which was, okay, that was Memorial Day weekend. What was the 28th? Was that Friday?
I think so,
All
yes.
right, so I need it picked up Friday or Saturday, and I need it delivered Tuesday after the holiday weekend. And we're paying $450 on Cash App or Zelle. Austell, Georgia to Ocala, Florida, 2022 Silverado.
Well, what this tells me is they couldn't get it moved. They need it moved immediately. So, like you said, extra money right there for priority service. I can drop a letter in the U.S. Postal Service for the cost of a stamp. 40, 50 cents, whatever it is today, or I can drop that same letter in a UPS overnight envelope for $29.95, a 2,000% markup to get it there guaranteed the next day. Same concept applies here. But what I see when I see this, we're going to pick it up today, can deliver on Tuesday. That means that wherever's receiving it, you're going to have that on your truck all weekend. So you better be prepared to sit 4 days for $450, not counting getting it down there, because they're not going to receive it before Tuesday. And when I see Cash App or Zelle, that says we're looking for a company driver that has no scruples with an open hole on his truck that's going to put the 450 in his personal bank account, forget it never happened, and we don't need a 1099 him. I don't even care if he's got insurance right now. I'm paying you cash under the table to make this happen for me, is what it tells me.
I love your analysis, because one of the things I was thinking is, okay, so as an owner operator, this is the type of hand to hand mindset combat you're going to be in from now on. Now that it's your business and you're in charge of sales, man, what people think they can get done for what number? I mean, people have all kinds of assumptions, expectations, and ideas. And as an owner operator, welcome to the world of dealing with each assumption and expectation
And
in a
somebody will take
negotiation.
it for that. And somebody
And
will
that's what
move it for that.
this is what sends so many people back to the load boards. Which, if you're, I stopped myself. We don't have any audio problems. I stopped myself because
Okay.
the mind is a dangerous neighborhood. Don't go there alone. CDL not required. This is so funny, dude. I love memes. CDL not required for El Giganto. And then, but me in my pickup truck and my trailer. So to solve that, I'm going to pull it with El Giganto. So,
Yes, we know that doesn't work in the
so
real world, but
funny,
it
dude.
is a funny meme.
It's hilarious. Somebody sent that in, and so I want to thank you. Send it in. Send it to autotransportintel@gmail.com. Hey, I got pulled over. It's a story. Uh, okay, I'll read the story. The trooper checked my logbook and documents. Everything was okay. After that, he took me to the weigh station. The combination weight was under 26K, around 2550. I had 2 vehicles on the trailer. After that, he told me to hook off the trailer, and he weighed only the trailer with the cargo on it. The weight was 16260. And he added the trailer physical weight to the truck, registered weight, GVWR 14K. He gave me out of service violations, see attached. He called a towing company, towed away one of the cargo, told me to keep on moving with just one cargo left. I've been in the business since 2019. I've never heard of anything like this. Have you seen this?
I've seen this, and it caused quite a stir on the Facebook pages, with some people reading into it stuff that was not even said in there. I'm sure that something is being misconstrued here, because in 30 years, I've not dealt with a DOT officer dropping a trailer on their scale. First of all, they don't want you to drop it on their scale, because the physical act of pulling out from under and backing back under a trailer on a scale can damage the sensors in the scale. That's why every CAT scale you go to in a truck stop says, do not slide your axles on the scale, because you can damage it. So I don't know what that officer was thinking. Now, I will tell you, the officer was probably trying to prove that he was over whatever the declared or registered weight rating of the trailer was, is why he wanted to weigh the trailer as a separate piece. And this is a risk we take when you derate a trailer to stay non-CDL. Your truck will typically be 14,000 pounds. Your trailer will typically be rated for 12,000 pounds. Together they're 26. You're good in about 46 or 47 states. With 2 cars on that trailer and the empty weight of the trailer, you probably physically have more than 12,000 pounds on the trailer. But that really shouldn't matter, because all the DOT officers should be looking at is your registered weight of the truck and trailer as a combination, and then what you weighed physically on each individual axle. And as long as you haven't exceeded the gross weight that you're registered for, the individual axle weights, and then the individual tire weight ratings for the amount of weight that's on that axle, you should be legal. Dropping the trailer like that is highly unusual. He may have been trying to prove you were operating out of class. Now, the removing one piece of cargo and telling you to go on your way, that is not unusual. Some states are a must fix state, which means you're not, if you're overweight, you're not physically allowed to leave with that vehicle until you've shifted the load around to make weight, or you've removed part of the load and had it hauled away on another truck, which is exactly what they did with the tow truck removing the other vehicle. They removed enough weight to now make that a legal combination. So for me to give real binding advice on this, I'd have to see his cab card, his trailer registration, know what his actual weights were and the type of license he has, and dig a little deeper in it. But I'm thinking that the heart of this was the officer trying to prove that he was overweight for the class of driver's license, and then to correct the fact he was over what his registered combined weight was, maybe remove the cargo till he was at a low enough weight that he could proceed, which in several states is standard operating procedure. When I had the towing company, we were called out to the scales routinely to shift loads so that the weight would meet right on axle. We were called out to haul some load away so that the load would be right on the axle. And so this isn't unusual. The only thing that's unusual is dropping the trailer on the scale. That doesn't make sense.
Hey, Juan had a question. Thank you, Juan, by the way. Really appreciate that. Okay, so 8-car load, Memphis to Nashville. What's the cheapest you would run an 8-car load per mile if it came to it? Right? Then you're in negotiation. Or what's the best rate you can give me? What do you think? What do you think?
Whatever my costs are plus my profit margin I need to make. That is too subjective of a question to give you an answer. If I tell you $6 a mile, you're going to think I'm nuts. If I tell you $2 a mile, you're going to think I'm nuts. My cost to run my truck is significantly different than my neighbor's cost to run his truck. So you have to know everything that it takes to own and operate that business, know what it costs to make that run, and do you want to make 3 to 5% return on investment like the large motor carriers like JB Hunt and Swift? Do you want to make 15 or 20% return on investment like every other business in the United States? So your cost plus whatever you want to make as a profit margin. That is the minimum that you can move that for. There is no reason to be moving below cost. Now, some people will tell you, well, we'll average all the loads for the week together, and as long as the week is a winner, if you want to do it that way, that's fine. That's not the way I do business. But then you got to know what load you had getting you to Memphis and what load you have coming out of Nashville. And together, do those 3 loads for the effort involved in all 3 loads meet your minimum true operating cost plus profit margin?
Information.
Man,
that's
the
awesome.
question I cannot answer is what is the right dollar amount per mile?
I love your answer because it's, hey, let's do this. Let's talk about, because man, where are, Brian, this is an amazing show because we're just eating up time. I've seen, I laugh. I have seen shows where they're like dying to add minutes to the clock, and it seems like on this show we're always like fighting the clock. So
Yeah,
we're
you
doing
never have to
something
give me
right.
the
No,
stretch
exactly,
signal.
exactly. Stretch it out. Okay, so
Let's make this the last one.
Yeah, okay. You shared this with me. CarriersEdge intros auto hauler driver training courses. I found this really interesting. CarriersEdge has unveiled a new series of online training courses for auto hauler drivers, including auto hauler cargo inspection, vehicle inspections, stinger steer, a third course dedicated to unloading cargo. And they talk about, because there's a lack of written information available to auto hauler drivers. This is a screenshot. And I know, I think we've talked about Auto Hauler Training Institute Auto Hauler University, Car Hauler University, something like that. It used to exist and no longer does. It was in Florida, Brian.
Right. There has not been a successful training school that is not company run in the auto haul industry. A lot of your large carriers have very successful training programs. Pick on them how you may, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole any further than this comment, but Carvana has a 2-week training program. I've seen their curriculum. They have a very thick book that covers everything you need to know about operating their specific make and model of 9-car trailer. And they do a very good job. By the time you come out of that class, you've already loaded and unloaded several hundred cars in the parking lot. So other carriers, your big union carriers, your big non-union carriers, they have some form of this. Even going back to the 90s and early 2000s, the first iteration of Copart, we had a fleet of 600 trucks at Copart. I was part of their safety and training department back then in the late 90s, early 2000s. And we did a 2-week training program on how to haul wrecked cars. And then we do random surprise D.O.T inspections. Well, outside of that, you can't learn how to haul cars by going to the Smith and Solomon truck driving school. They teach you how to pass a CDL test and basic stuff for hauling general freight. So I applaud CarriersEdge for trying to do something, because they are absolutely right that there is hardly any written training material to document these standards outside of what is provided by the original equipment manufacturers that they only distribute to their authorized partner carriers. Like, in case you didn't know, Ford has a huge book on how to haul their vehicles, where you can and can't put them on the truck, what direction they can face. You can't back a manual transmission Mustang onto a trailer, according to Ford. It violates their rules, and on and on. So CarriersEdge is trying to consolidate some of this type of information. I'm not saying Ford specific, I don't know. And any training is good training. I've always believed in that. You just have to ask, what is the motivation? Is it because they've noticed a lot of damages on loads that they're responsible for, because people don't know how to properly document a vehicle condition report with the right codes, instead of just making a wiggly line that says it's scratched, or just hitting the button on the app and not knowing what they're actually doing? Do we know how to grade a damage? I don't know. So maybe that's where this training is going from. It obviously was born out of a necessity, because they're not going to spend money creating this just out of the kindness of their heart. Then we have to ask, what is the necessity? Was it damage to their loads? Are they expanding? Is CarrierEdge want to become the next car haul load board? I don't know. And it's not bad. None of it's bad. I'm glad that somebody's creating some of this training. It's something I would love to do. If I had 30 hours in a day, I would start creating this stuff. So I applaud them for doing that. Somebody had to. We'll have to see where it goes.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, frankly, I'd love to learn more and talk to them. And really, I want to talk to anybody that is trying to help raise the bar in communication and education in auto transport. I actually don't know why. Here's what I don't understand. I've reached out to some YouTubers and I never hear back. I don't know why we're all so compartmentalized. This
I I I don't
total
get it either.
inability to communicate is like just ingrained in auto
You you
transport. It's weird.
you would think these other YouTubers, you go on their show, they go on your show, it increases exposure. It's not like they're going to lose something because somebody started watching ATI.
I
All
don't
you
know
can
what
do
it
is
is,
win.
man. I
It's the
really
same
don't
reason we
know.
cross promote the ATI channel on my podcast, and you promote my podcast on the
Yeah,
ATI
yeah.
channel. And it's all about getting the knowledge out there. Uh, I just took an hour out of my day, and
Yeah.
I don't make a dime doing this. I just do it because I enjoy it.
Really? You haven't gotten the check yet? Okay.
No,
Um,
I'm waiting for my royalties, Jay.
so on the road, let's do that. Where's your podcast? You go to yourdotguy.com, right?
Yeah, you can go to my website,
Yeah.
yourdotguy.com, and click
Right.
the link, the podcast,
There it is.
and it has a subscribe here link. Or on whatever your favorite podcast platform is. I'm available on iTunes, Pandora, Stitcher, Google Play, and more. And you just search On the Road with your DOT guy, Brian Riker. We're up to episode 16 or 17. I originally intended it to be a weekly show, and now it's more like bi-weekly or tri-weekly because life gets in the way. And
weekly
they're not quite as entertaining as this one because I don't have Jay here to be my straight man.
There, I knew the compliment was in there. Thank you very much. No, we do actually, Brian. I think we make a really good combo. I'm really proud of this show. Live carrier advice. This is now our 65th show.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hard to believe, my friend.
It's pretty amazing, and I think we have a lot more to go. And I really like. I like what I see in the live chat, you guys. Thank you so much. I mean, it's not a bunch of let's go Brandon and all this stuff. I mean, these are really good questions, and I really do appreciate it. Brian and I really appreciate your participation. And even if you say nothing and you just learn and you stop for a second, think about what numbers you've heard, think about, man, you are going to have to be sales, marketing, compliance. You're going to be on the phone, peeing in the cup, trying to deliver a car. And whatever. It's nonstop. It's nonstop.
Look at it here. 30 years later, I've had my consulting company 13 years. I still get out in the truck because I want to. I'm sitting in the cab of an F550 flatbed tow truck that's going out to a customer out west. And even 30 years later, I run my company from the cab of a truck, and I haven't owned a trucking company since 2018.
Dude, you're always behind the wheel. You're behind the wheel more than you're behind the desk, and that pretty much sums it up.
It's how I stay grounded and true.
Well, and yeah, well, and I like what you said. Last question here, Jarrett. Okay, random question. Brian's going to have something to say. How much was an F350 XL dually 2 years ago or even last year, Brian?
A lot less than it is today. A 350 XL, the base level, we're talking that was maybe a $65,000, $70,000 truck, and now they're upwards of 90.
Wow. There you go. Good question, Jarrett. Yeah. Brian, thank you so much for your time. This was a 1-hour show, episode 65. It's now live carrier advice with Jay and Brian. It's on Wednesdays. It's not every Wednesday, but when you see the go live button, be sure to jump in, ask your question. Thank you guys so much. Brian, thank you so much for your time. Have a safe week, and we'll see you maybe in 2 weeks.
Yeah, in 2 weeks, I got to check my schedule because I'm going to be in Washington, D.C. on that Wednesday at a legislative event for the towing industry where I am the lobbyist member. But depending on how the schedule works, I should be able to pull aside some time for the show.
Oh, and we've got NIADA Wednesday the 22nd, so no show the 22nd. So if we can do a show on the 15th and the 29th, that would be the next 2 shows in June.
We'll work on it.
All right, we'll work on that. Awesome. And I'd love to get an update on what you're doing on the 15th. That'd be awesome.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So
all right, guys.
We'll look forward to that. Thank you so much, Brian. Take care. We'll see you soon, buddy.
Take care.
All right, take care. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in for Live Carrier Advice. I'm Jay, your host. This is ATI. This is the Car Shipping Business Channel. Stay safe out there. Be good.